Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Kevin Davis, who is the president of TopLine Leadership. Kevin, welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Hey, so I want to talk to you today all about your business and how you help clients, and I know you focus on sales and hiring the right sales team. Before we get into that, give us a little bit of background on yourself and then what led you into TopLine Leadership.
Well, I'm the author of 3 sales books. The most recent is called The Sales Manager's Guide to Greatness, and I've been started out in the office technology selling copiers on straight commission.
Wow.
And spent 10 years working my way up into management in that, and then broke off on my own. And like I said, I've written 3 books, and most recently we released an online program for sales managers that business owners, VPs of sales, and sales managers use to coach salespeople, results are 85% of salespeople are reporting they're getting a higher quality of coaching, which is super important for engagement, motivation, and morale of sales teams. So that's what we do.
Yeah, and then
help
in that way,
coach better.
Yeah, doesn't that then become kind of like a help to the sales, internal sales team, because they don't need to create content. They don't need to perform the duties. You're just coming in kind of like as the virtual sales coach and aligning with what they're already doing.
Well, that's true. But essentially what my playbook does is help sales managers or small business owners who manage salespeople to put in a culture of coaching, which is a consistent cadence of specific types of conversations and tools, like I said, a playbook to have better quality conversations, to a higher quantity of conversations. And of course, the starting point of effective sales coaching is better hiring.
Yes. Yeah, that's because
if you don't get the hiring part right, then the coaching isn't really going to help.
Yeah, it all starts with that, doesn't it? Wow.
Yeah, it really does.
Well, let's dive in a little bit deeper. What is the kind of the first, second step of making sure that you are hiring the right way? I'm sure there's success stories, and I'm sure there's non-success stories. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I think the key in this crazy marketplace that we're all working in now is to hire an individual who is coachable.
Yeah.
Because things are changing so rapidly, we need to ramp up new hires faster, but things are changing at an increasing velocity. And so an individual who is adaptable is one who is coachable, who learns and applies. And so that's kind of the starting point, is how do you identify a coachable candidate during the interview process.
And how do you do that?
Well, there's a few different techniques, but I guess one that I found particularly beneficial, I'll share a couple of them with your audience, is to hire somebody who's slightly underqualified for the position. Somebody that has that eye of the tiger. I mean, so often what happens is we put out a job posting and we describe the perfect candidate, which tends to get people who are lateral moves where you don't get that same fire in the belly component. So it's important to make sure that you broaden you just look at an individual who's slightly underqualified for the position, where the position that you're offering from their perspective would be a tangible step up by either an increased potential in earnings, a more sophisticated product line, higher quality of clients, opportunity to move up and to scale and, increase responsibility in your business. But for them, it needs to be a step up in their career. When you look at somebody that's more of a lateral position move, it just hasn't really panned out for me unless you get somebody with that proven track record that you can actually verify. So that's one way to do it. I would say another way to do it is I love what who's the head basketball coach for Villanova Wildcats? His name is Jay Wright. Okay, famous college basketball coach. He's won like a couple of NCAA Final Four championships. He has a book out, and he talks about humble and hungry, and as being the type of player that he looks for the Villanova basketball team. And hungry, we all get. That's the step up, right? The person that has that fire in the belly. But the humble part kind of strikes me as a little strange, given we all want salespeople that are very animated, very outgoing, all that type of stuff, which is oftentimes not somebody who's humble. And yet what Jay Wright says is if somebody is not humble, they won't really be coachable. And so the question is, how do you spot humility in an interview?
Yeah.
And the way to do that is to ask a candidate to tell you about the biggest sale they ever lost and why they lost it. And if they pay very close attention to their answer, because if their answer comes back saying, well, our price was too high, the product just wasn't quite ready yet, the software hadn't been fully tested, I mean, that's somebody who does not have humility, because they're essentially blaming their loss on external factors that were supposedly out of their control. A humble candidate will be one that says, I just made a few mistakes. These are the mistakes I made. I learned from it, and I'm ready to move on. So that's a quick little technique for folks.
That's a really, really great point too, because even in the world of personal development, a lot of people don't pick up on this, but the late great Jim Rohn talked about how you need to work on yourself more than your work. Not that you want to shirk your work, but you need to work on yourself first, and then that prepares things. Well, you can tell a lot about people in how they, like you said, how they answer that question. You can tell a lot about people in how they treat their parents, so I think I love when you can hear or be looking at those kind of aspects that are like, ooh, you can't really say, check this box. Are you humble? Yes or no? Of course, people are going to say yes, but boy, how can you really vet that? That's a great tip.
Yeah. It's, and again, the connection between humility and coachability is, the bottom line is, I don't think there's any better examples of coaches than NCAA basketball coaches, men or women. I mean, they're just, you see them on the sidelines. They got their game face on. They're going up and down. They're very actively observing their players in action. And as we record this, the Final Four, the NCAA tournament is going. So that's it's something that we can all observe, and that really is the image that I hope business owners and sales managers can get about the type of coach that would achieve the greatest level of results. And that is somebody that's actually observing and seeing their salespeople in action. And of course, there's ways to do that in the pandemic that most sales managers and business owners are not aware of.
Well, I think there's so many analogies we can draw from sports, the dedication to work. And how about this? The best professional basketball player. If anyone listening to this, or you, Kevin, you can think of, okay, who's your favorite professional basketball player? They have a coach. In fact, they've got a coach on the court. They've probably got 3 or 4 coaches off the court. And so who are we to think as entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, VP, sales managers, who do we to think that we don't need a coach? We're totally good. So the salespeople need a coach. The sales managers need to be that coach. And then sometimes you need to coach the coach.
Yeah, exactly right. This is part of the problem. To kind of take this in a slightly different direction is when if a sales manager's team misses a forecast, right? They come up short on their quarterly number. The discussion between the business owner and the sales manager, invariably, the reason for coming up short was 1 or 2 salespeople that missed their forecast, right? I mean, if there's 7 or 8 salespeople underneath the manager and the manager misses his or her number, then the reason is because 1 or 2 salespeople didn't fulfill what they said they were going to sell that quarter. And then the conversation switches to, what salespeople did not carry their own weight. And I would simply say that kind of shifts the focus away from the manager onto individual salespeople, and that maybe if a number gets missed, the manager is the one who needs to look in the mirror, a la your comment on Jim Rohn, who I love too. I mean, he was really a special guy. So, but anyway, that's that working on yourself and what can I as a sales team leader do to become a more effective leader. In fact, there was some research from the Gallup organization in 2019 that said 70% of the variance in team engagement is determined solely by the manager. So, and of course, team engagement affects morale, turnover, sales performance, longevity, the ability to really build an elite high-performance sales team. And guess what? That climate of motivation, or in some cases demotivation, the single biggest factor, 70% of that engagement level is determined by the manager and his or her skills.
And let's talk about something here related to sports and skills and improving. I feel this. Do you agree? Many times, if you see a gap in a salesperson's performance and they need to improve and they agree to improve, many times it is not quadrupling their efforts and spending so much extra time. Sometimes, or many times, it is just polishing this area and just fine-tuning this right here. And it's those compound effects, like Darren Hardy teaches in his book called Compound Effect. It's just the aspect of just incremental improvement, not necessarily let's transform your entire approach to doing everything and start from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the analogy that comes to mind when you make that comment, Mike, is the horse race, right? I mean, the horse that comes in first in a horse
wins
race,
by a nose.
Wins by a nose and wins a lot more prize money than the second place horse. And that's not a huge improvement. It's just a slight improvement. And that's why, sales managers can significantly impact a sales team's win rates if they're focused on coaching the right parts of the sales cycle, if they're engaged with their salespeople in such a way that they're actually making, providing their full potential to the team. And so often they kind of get distracted and sucked into bureaucratic, rabbit holes that distract them from really making the types of contributions that they're capable of making.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, let's wrap up. What do you feel, Kevin, is one of the first things that even just from an aspect of like a hack or a simple tip that a sales team leader could be doing with their team that could get some incremental, quick success?
I would suggest that you implement what I call a memo of understanding practice, that salespeople, after an initial meeting with a prospect, which today is being done so often with Zoom, but could hopefully in the near future be back to more in-person meetings. But whether it's in-person or virtual, it doesn't really matter. There's a salesperson that's asking some basic questions of the prospect to identify the prospect's pain points. And sales managers don't have visibility on that unless they teach their salespeople to send the prospect a short memo of understanding, here's my understanding of the 3 pain points that you said and how these are affecting you. Are these accurate? And salespeople like to send this MOU because it confirms the customer's needs to the customer, and then the customer can oftentimes send it to other decision makers, which gets more buying momentum going on. So it's good for salespeople. But if the manager asks to be BCC'd on those emails of description of need, essentially that provides a sales manager with visibility in the early part of the sales cycle, which is so important because that's where, from the customer's perspective, the size of the sale is determined.
Yeah. I think that one of the takeaways that I will take away from this conversation we've had is it needs to be tracked and managed and done, but it doesn't need to be this huge sledgehammer of change. Many times it's that incremental change and the little bit of degrees of improvement that then over time add into massive success because you do it consistently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Well, Kevin, I know that your books, Getting Into Your Customer's Head and Slow Down, Sell Faster, and The Sales Manager's Guide to Greatness are all available. What's the best way that people can reach out, connect with you, and pick up copies of your book?
TopLineLeadership.com. That's obviously the books are available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. But to reach me, TopLineLeadership.com is the place to go.
Excellent. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really great catching up with you.
Thanks, Mike. Pleasure to talk to you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.